Welcome to your ClassWize user training session. The purpose of this session is to give you an overview of ClassWize, along with a look at many features available to you, as well as some best practices and tips to help you get the most of using ClassWize in your classroom. Let's head into a teaching class where we can take actions with our students to help them stay focused and on task. First, select the class. Once you're on the class dashboard, you can start the class. To start the class, it's required that you have an end time for that class session. This is important to be accurate. The reason I do this is because I set a time that's not accurate and I don't manually stop a class. The rules that I created for this class will carry forward to their next classroom. So setting this time accurately will ensure that my ClassWize class will stop at the end of class period, and I can stand by the door and say goodbye to my students without worrying about ClassWize still running as they move on. Once the class starts, you'll see all your students represented by student tiles on the dashboard. You'll see the screenshots that are updating every 10 seconds. And up to the left, you have your two different views, the screen view and the list view, which will list all the tabs that the student has open on those Chromebook devices. It will also give you some X's, so you can close those tabs as well. Next to that, we have our Class Until button, which again, you can extend the time if needed, or end the class early with the End Now button. At the very top left in the blue bar, you're going to see the name of your class. Over to the right, under these four buttons, you see some options to resize your tiles, either smaller or bigger, depending on your class size. Let's take a look at the student tiles and the actions you can take for individual students. This includes chat, announcement, open site, pause internet, and live view. Now let's look at the actions we can take from an individual student tile. Let's pretend our demo student here has entered the class, but they're not quite ready to get started. What can we do? We have four options here at the top. The first one is to initiate a chat with the student. Chat is available when students are on Chromebooks, and it's a two-way communication between teacher and student. As a teacher, I can decide when I want to enable chat for that particular class period. To do so, I would come over to this chat button here on the very right, click and enable the chat on. Once chat is enabled, students will see an icon at the bottom of their screen. I can click on the chat icon on the tile and send that message off to the student. The student then can click on the icon and respond. If the student wants to initiate the chat with me, they can do so as well. It can allow students to ask you questions that they normally wouldn't want to ask in front of their peers. If and when I want to disable chat for that particular class period, I would do so here, and the students would no longer see the chat icon in the corner of their screen. The next icon on the student tile is the announcement feature. Maybe I just want to send a one-way message to the student. Maybe it's a redirection, a reminder, or simply a message that just helps them move forward with their learning. When you click send, they will see a message appear at the top of their screen. The next action is the open site option. This allows you to push a site to open as a new tab on the student's device. This is a very efficient way to get students started on their work, as well as helpful for students that can't quite navigate the keyboard as efficiently as others. The last option is to pause the internet. The Pause Internet button is going to pause the internet, and their Chromebook tabs are going to close. I can apply it to all students from one specific student tile, or I can pause for one or more students. When I click pause, the student will leave the spot in the class that they normally are in and move to that front spot. The reason is we don't want to forget the student is paused. We want them to be connected and doing their job. This is allowing me some time to have that teachable moment with Julie to redirect and then reconnect. I can do so from her tile or from the pause button up here on the bar. Once I end the pause, she'll move back to her place in the class and her tabs are going to reopen and she can get started back to work. Let's take a look at live view. When we click on a student's tile, it will bring up the live view of the student's screen. It'll start with the active tab, but you'll notice the other tabs in the background when the students are on Chromebooks. It also allows me to take a look at those tabs and close any that I don't think the student should be on at this time. It'll send them a message that I have to close the tab on their device. Another great feature of Live View is the ability to click on a live URL that will open the site as a new tab on your device, so you can take a closer look at what the student is viewing on their device. I also have a full screen option down here at the bottom right-hand side. This gives you an opportunity to project a student's work on a bigger screen for all students to view. We also have the screenshot option. Remember, it does download a PDF to your local computer. Next, we have the option to create a rule. There are 3 places you can create a rule in ClassWize. Creating a rule is going to block the student from a site that the student is currently on. I can block it for a single student or for the whole class. Right now, the student's on code.org. Maybe in this case, I've asked the student not to navigate to code.org, but they keep making that choice. So I'm going to go ahead and block it for the student. What this means is I'm going to add a rule. It's going to live in my rule set. The tab will close on the student device, and they'll get a message that the tab has been closed because the teacher blocked it. The other actions you can take within the live screen, you can open a site, and you can also initiate that chat here as well. At the bottom of the student tiles, when the students are on Chromebooks, you're going to notice this little gray icon. When you click on that icon, you will see the list of tabs the student has open, as well as some X's to close those tabs if needed. You also have the option to create a rule, again blocking the student from a specific site that you need to block them from. If students are on Windows devices, you'll see the name at the top of the tile of that user. You're going to also see the entire desktop of the Windows user on the screen. Our Open Site feature has an amazing YouTube option for you to share specific YouTube videos while eliminating the comments and distractions that YouTube videos typically bring, as well as giving us a safe way to share those YouTube videos with our students. When you push a YouTube video out by the Open Site option, your students aren't able to minimize the screen. They'll be able to view the video, they'll be able to put it in full screen mode, but they won't be able to see the comments or extra distractions that can bring their attention away from the task at hand. Our focus feature is a great way to set expectations for your students to stay on the sites that you need them to be on to do their classwork. To start a focus session, you begin by adding sites here that you want your students to have access to while blocking access to other sites. You can find the site on this preset list, or if you don't see what you need, you can add the specific URL into the box here. When you start the focus, it will open the sites on their device as new tabs. Here is a view of the focus session from a student Chromebook. As you see here, the student's current tabs close, and the focus sites will open in new tabs for the student. During a focus session, if the student tries to type something within the URL bar, they're going to get a content blocked page. And if the student opens a new tab, wherever they try to navigate to, they will be blocked as well. If you'd like to add a site or take a site off of that list, you just click on the Classes Focus button, and you can add or remove sites, and then click Save, or end the focus here as well. And the last thing to note about focus is the ability to focus your class on a specific YouTube video. If your school gives you and your students access to YouTube, you can place a specific URL into the focus session here. Choose the website below, and once you start the focus, it's going to open on the student's device in a new tab. It's also going to open in that full screen mode, so you're eliminating those distractions, access to inappropriate comments, and commercials. Let's find out what type of rules you can apply with your students. What are rules, and why might we need them? Rules give you the ability to block or allow certain sites for students. The ability to block sites for individual students or your whole class works for any user of ClassWize. Like in the case of the demo student, we had to block the demo student because that student was making the choice to go somewhere that I've asked them not to go. So I've blocked them from that site for a time period. Maybe I pull them aside, have a discussion with them, or maybe I need to keep them blocked for a little bit of time. And when they're ready to get reconnected and can make better decisions, I can delete the rule from the rule set here. If your district uses the line-wise content filter, your technology team can set certain sites as blocked for students but left unlocked for teachers to use and allow them in their classes. And the access to these sites would only be allowed during the ClassWize session. Let's take Cool Math Games as an example. When my students enter my class, I have Cool Math Games in the blocked position, meaning they can't access. When I want them to use the site, I can simply toggle to the allowed position. This is going to give them access to Cool Math Games. Once they're given access, they can use that site until I go back into my rule set and I toggle it back to the blocked position. The tab will close and they'll get a message that the tab's been closed because it's been blocked by the teacher. To create a rule, you can click here on New Rule. On the drop-down, you can find the site or a category, or you can put in a specific site. Make sure you click on the website directly below, and then in the case of blocking it or allowing it, you would choose. If you don't have the line-wise content filter, you would not see this allowed option. The rule can apply to the entire class, or you can also select specific students here from the drop-down. Click Add Rule, and now each time my ClassWize class starts, my users are going to be blocked from Learn.com. Once my ClassWize class ends, it will turn off that rule for my students. This is the reason why setting the end time is super important, because you don't want to keep your ClassWize running while students are starting the next class with their teacher. The rules will apply to the students until the ClassWize class ends. A general rule of thumb for your rule list is to keep it manageable, 5 to 7 rules at a time. If this list here gets too long, you won't have as much visibility into the rules that you've set, and you may create some conflicts of your own. For example, you could set a rule 2 weeks ago and then ask the student to access something that they won't be able to access. Keep it manageable for efficiency and ease of use. When needed, to manage your list, you can delete all the rules up here at the top, or you can delete individual rules here with the little icon. If you need to extend the time or end the class early, you can do so by clicking the Class Until button. Ending the class will bring you back to the original dashboard. Let's head to the dashboard where we will find Sync, Chat, Latest News, Support, Help, Send Feedback, and your Logout button. Next to the Add Class button is a Sync button. If the classes within ClassWize are synced from Google Classroom, you can make changes in Google Classroom. Click on the Sync button, and those changes will be reflected in your ClassWize environment. Using this Chat button, you can enable chat for your various classes that you're going to be using chat for during the day. Let's head up to the blue bar. The first option is Latest News. This is where you can find out the newest updates to ClassWize. Support is going to give you information about who to contact internally for support with ClassWize. Our Help section in ClassWize is very robust. You can use search terms, and the results will be the articles that particular function or feature is within. A great article to get you started is called the ClassWize Quick Guide. It is a PDF with screenshots and labels that really takes you through the dashboard that we talked about today. It's a great resource to have on hand when you begin your journey with ClassWize.